Tonight, greatest hits from greatest hits. 7 of the best singles that were only found on compilations. But first, a special look at Eliza's performance on Sunday the 5th of March live from the Trinity Centre, Bristol. My name is Dan Whitell and this is the Slammin Seven.
The Slammin Seven.
Before we get on to tonight's Slammin Seven, I was fortunate enough to witness Eliza's live show in Bristol on Sunday evening, which was the last show on her A Sky Without Stars tour. It was the first time that I'd seen her since Hot Farm Festival in 2011, when she was known as Eliza Doolittle and was promoting her hit debut album featuring the singles Pack Up and Skinny Jeans. She'd moved away from pop and discovered this darker, gloomier and sensual side of soul through her album A Real Romantic. The follow-up, 2022's A Sky Without Stars, was one of my favourite records of last year, and I wore out single Straight Talker like it was going out of fashion. Armed to the teeth with yearning harmonies, introspective lyrics and brooding bass lines, Eliza took the show to various stages around the UK and Europe, finishing the tour in Bristol, and I was immediately struck by how she seemed more self-assured, but had a more introverted stage presence, and it matched the theme of the album very well. Rather than chatty and exuberant, she stood a figure of quiet confidence, with minimal crowd interaction, allowing the songs to speak for themselves. And bangers they are. Opening with the aforementioned Straight Talker, the sound was unfortunately blighted with issues where it sounded like there were 2 drum kits bouncing around either side of the stage, which was handled with admirable professionalism, considering the songs effectively had all their crucial syncopated rhythm parts modelled. This was swiftly resolved after a few songs, and we could really enjoy the set for what it was. An artist not compromised by the style of music that she performs. This was not a former teen pop idol trying to remain relevant by singing songs that captured an audience a decade ago, but rather this was Eliza showing us who she is now, a real singer with a fantastic band making contemporary R&B music that wouldn't sound out of place on a D'Angelo and the Vanguard album or a Van Hunt album. It's stripped back. The drums did hit a lot more aggressively live than they do on the album, yet she and her pair of backing vocalists were able to match the intricate textures of the album's layered vocals in spite of the increased volume of the live setting. The more claustrophobic nature of the album's lo-fi production was given more room to breathe and simmer in its funky beats. This resulted in a really good translation of the album to the stage, replete with lyrical themes of self-empowerment and introspection, especially in the conflicted Me versus Me, and even the bleak social commentary of Tear for the Dreadful. I was so glad that she pulled it off so well. On the Cusp, Heat of the Moon, and Dripping were also favourites. These were also great songs to sing along to, and more than a handful of people made themselves heard in the front of the audience where I was. Singles Livid and Wasn't Looking from the previous album, as well as 2019 non-album track Lava Treacle, these were accounted for seamlessly, complementing the setlist very well and showing off her catalogue of fiery grooves. A great show with fantastic energy, a rare chemistry with the band, including nonchalantly executed Vanity 6-esque choreography, which really added to the smouldering sensuality of both the music and the performance from Eliza herself. Backlit in shades of reds and oranges, ultimately crafting a show with a swagger, yet with the intimate ambience of a Montreux Jazz Festival set. I met her after the show, obviously. I talked to her about Prince and even got my tattoo out because I just can't help but be that guy sometimes. But she was kind enough to sign a copy of the album for us, and here it is. So go check out A Sky Without Stars now if you appreciate modern R&B with a darker and dirtier edge. Hopefully she'll be back with more live performances in the UK soon. I can't wait to see what she does next. She's a singer-songwriter in her prime, and she's making her music without compromising who she is, and I love that. She has a new single out called Midnight Rose too, which is available on streaming. It's drenched in the same neo-soul vibes of A Sky Without Stars. It's not on the album, but maybe she'll put it on a Greatest Hits. Greatest Hits, eh? The game genie of music fans. Sure, you've got the Greatest Hits of Queen, but you're not really a Queen fan, are you? It's cheating. You haven't even had to listen to The Miracle. You've just cheated your way through their discography. Sorry, one day I am going to stop digging out Queen. They're not even in my top 10 least favourite bands of all time. Anyway, I digress as always. I'm not much of a Greatest Hits guy. I prefer studio albums. It's always a shame to find out that a single doesn't have a home on any of them. and is instead just attached to a compilation. This isn't so much of an issue now in the days where you can just add any song you want to your library, and there isn't so much of a need and demand from audiences themselves because of this. But back in the day, it was quite a cynical process to release a full price compilation, knowing that a fan will pay full price for 1 or maybe 2 tracks if you're lucky. It may be an out-of-date practice, but there were a number of times where the quality of the single itself was probably an overall W for fans, helping you wade through the arms of cash-grabbing label executives and sorting the emeralds from the smashed Heineken bottles on the pub floor surrounding the jukebox. It's time for Greatest Hits from Greatest Hits in the first ever Slammin Seven.
The Slammin Seven.
Number 7 is Donna Summer's 1979 single On the Radio, which appeared on the soundtrack to the 1980 Jodie Foster movie Foxes and Summer's first hits compilation, On the Radio, Greatest Hits Volumes 1 and 2, released on the 23rd of November 1979. You know a song is an undeniable banger when they name a 2-volume box set after the new single itself. Following I Feel Love, which itself is one of the most influential synthesizer records of all time, she continued her work with Giorgio Moroder for a lush, disco-tinged jam. It only got to number 32 in the UK, in tragic comparison to the 2001 Martine McCutcheon cover, perhaps due to the fact that for many it may take a minute to get going, beginning as a sultry ballad before swirling into the ultimate disco chorus, with Moroder's patented synth bass. Disco was largely thought of as played out in 1979 by growing crowds of tasteless idiots, but the Queen of Disco remained unaffected. The continued development of her sound and the adoption of new wave production would lead to a fantastic album in 1980, again with Moroder in The Wanderer, and a string of 80s hits would follow, including Love Is in Control, Finger on the Trigger, Unconditional Love with the Musical Youth, and the raucous She Works Hard for the Money. This song is the perfect transition from disco to pop. Number 6 is You Know You're Right, Nirvana's final studio recording that would not be made legally available until 2002, when Nirvana's self-titled Greatest Hits collection hit stores, with this track serving as the opener. Recorded before his death in 1994, the song was played on a borrowed guitar that Kurt Cobain was really not very happy with. He also recorded his vocals in a single take with a couple of overdubs before signing out of the studio and drawing a cat next to his name on the studio door. That, ladies and gentlemen, was Kurt Cobain's final contribution to music. Fortunately then, his snarling vocals still had a knack for reaching a good hook to produce a guttural, chanted chorus, and his decision to play the guitar above the first note to produce a metallic chiming sound in the intro contributed a great deal to Nirvana's trademark atmospheric verses. It ultimately showed that he was still fresh, full of ideas, which probably makes everyone that little bit sadder. Sorry. Number 5 is my personal favourite single by Daryl Hall and John Oates, called Say It Isn't So, from the 1983 collection Rock and Soul Greatest Hits Part 1. Already cataloguing an impressive resume of 70s hits like Rich Girl and Sarah Smile, it also included recent 80s smashes like You Make My Dreams, I Can't Go For That, No Can Do, as well as another new Hall & Oates classic single, Adult Education. But Say It Isn't So has grown to be my favourite of them all. Actually, I shouldn't call them Hall & Oates. Every one of their records lists their full names, and they've always considered themselves to be, at least in Daryl Hall's mind, 2 solo artists that frequently collaborate with each other. Strange then that they were officially recognised by Billboard as the most successful duo of all time on their charts. This is masterful songwriting. Daryl Hall throws his hat in the ring for being the greatest ad-libber of all time. His outro vocalizations never fail to end the song on a high, and his sense of melody is never bettered than here on the final glorious chorus. The production's solid, with an emphasis on that bouncing bass line and powerful drums, and John Oates, most importantly, still retained the power of his mustache in 1983, giving him the power to stand as one of the finest complimentary backing vocalists in pop history on this Motown-inspired outing. Again, more questions need to be asked of the British record buying public, as this one bafflingly only got to number 69. No laughing at the back. Number 4 is the 1998 UK number 2 for George Michael with Outside. Long after on the radio, George Michael proved that disco still rules with this delicious slice of pop, which served not only as the opener for the second disc of his Ladies and Gentlemen, the Best of George Michael collection, but also has noticed that following a particular incident in a Los Angeles public bathroom, George Michael was out of the closet. Amidst the glorious strings, belting vocal hooks, police radio samples, and self-deprecating humour, via cheeky references to serving the community following his LA arrest, this is George Michael's last smash hit single. I thought a few of the cuts from the 2004 album Patience were underrated, but this is, as we say around these parts, undeniable. It's tremendously enjoyable for a song that marks such an intrusion into his private life. It's also a lot more up-tempo for a 90s George Michael jam. Fast Love Accepted. This is one of the few dance tracks that he put out that decade, as he was determined to be taken more seriously as an artist and earn critical acclaim. That's what makes this song so remarkable. And although it's a huge moment for his own self-liberation, it stands as an important moment in the history of LGBTQ music, as George took a huge step forward for the gay community. Rest in power, George, one of the greatest human beings in pop music of all time. Number 3 is reserved for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers with their 1993 single Mary Jane's Last Dance from their greatest hits that year. You may remember this song from being totally ripped off in 2006 by the Red Hot Chili Peppers under the name Danny California. With typically clean Rick Rubin production, this slice of Americana evokes the same dirt trail and dive bar imagery as their other hits, and is perhaps their catchiest tune since American Girl. The verses feature a jaded-sounding Tom Petty in fine form, and Stan Lynch's drums, perfect for that laid-back country snarl that the song involuntarily bestows upon my face. Bonus points for the MTV award-winning music video featuring the excellent Kim Basinger as a corpse, and Tom Petty as a character caught somewhere between Weekend at Bernie's and foreshadowing the HBO series 6 Feet Under. Again, only got to number 52, UK people. The song may or may not be about weed, we don't know, and frankly the song is much cooler when the meaning remains vague. Just like a David Lynch movie, or why Jack Black's character in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer was a white Rastafarian. Number 2 is Sly and the Family Stone's creatively spelled Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again from 1970. Another greatest hits collection that featured a few new songs that would become definitive within their discography. The band released 2 of them together as an exquisite double A-side in the US. Although I think Everybody Is a Star rivals Thank You as a song, the introduction of the thumping and plucking technique on the bass by Larry Graham in this song, later rechristened Slapping, means that it takes the spot for its position in the history of funk. For Everybody Is a Star, check out the 2000 cover by Fishbone. Thank You would go on to mark a shift in their sound following their previous R&B offerings, and they would record There's a Riot Going On in 1971 with a sparse style that would push and pull together with James Brown's horn-laden On the One dance breakouts and George Clinton's psychedelic rock and space jazz-infused Chaos Collective to change the black musical landscape forever. The song itself displays the band's famous unison vocals, and the lyrics continue societal themes found on previous albums like Stand. But at the same time, the lyrics make references to a lot of their previous hits. It also sounds very cold and minimal next to many of the records of the time, and its sound would later be revisited via a sample in the Jimmy Jam Terry Lewis produced global smash hit Rhythm Nation for Janet Jackson 20 years later in 1989. This one was not released as a single in the UK, so thank you for letting me spare the blushes of the UK public again. And number 1 is September from 1978's The Best of Earth, Wind and Fire, Volume 1. Also featuring their glorious Beatles cover of Got to Get You Into My Life, the track is perhaps the most irresistible song on this list, and it wins by that virtue. I defy anyone not to like this song. From Philip Bailey's ethereal falsetto, coupled with its natural companion in the glossy soul of the late Maurice White's voice, to that melodious, sticky bass line by Vadim White, which many people think contains a mistake in its offbeat playing during the intro. I don't agree, but feel free to hit pause and verify for yourself. EW&F's blend of soul, funk, and disco climaxed in 1978 with this, their most immediate single. Many would claim 1981's Let's Groove or 1977's Boogie Wonderland with the Emotions as being their best remembered song, but I would always retort with a question. Do you remember the 21st night of September? What other songs have a calendrical prescription? Exactly. The chorus may be nonsense, but when they were writing the song, faced with the question of what they were singing about, Morris White simply concluded, "Who the fuck cares? Badass." He was totally right. Number 3 on the UK charts too, so I don't have to suffer a pulmonary embolism as I end this video. 7 slices of pop heaven, all served up nice on a plate that we call the Slammin Seven. Go check out the Cacophony Sessions podcast on all platforms. Consider enabling my new habit of creating content via our Patreon. Hit us up in the comments if you agree or if you disagree, and take the fight to Twitter at CACSessionsPod. Tell me what I've missed. If you're the kind of cat that prefers Apple Music, feel free to find my profile. I'm Golden E Pump. You'll find this Slammin 7 playlist there, and you'll continue to find all future ones, as well as on our blog at cacophonysessions.wordpress.com. Everything is linked under this video, and you can like, subscribe, click that bell, and smell that smell. Tell your friends. Actually, tell your mums. They'll like this one. If you only send them the hyperlink to one YouTube video this coming Mother's Day, make it this one. Season 4 of the podcast will return with the Beatles episode in the next week or so. But until then, stay funky. This has been
The Slammin Seven.
Sorry, I had to do that one last time.